Okay, hey everybody, welcome to Leadership Table tonight. It is, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody first. Feel free to unmute yourselves. Tonight is Mexico Eve, and we are all your jewels that earned Mexico. We are getting ready and ready to go tomorrow. And what I want to say about that is that anything is possible. Friends, I remember watching Brittany go for 2 or 3 years, I think 3 years before I got to go, and thinking, I wonder if I cannot wait until when is it going to be my time? And you can do it. If you keep going, if you take the right actions, if you keep building your belief and keep growing, you will be here. I cannot say when, but what I can tell you is that you've got a 95% probability that you will get there if you do not quit and if you continue to learn and grow. Maybe I watched Brittany go by herself for 2 years, and then the next year she took Christina. And then the next year we got a check. We didn't get the trip. But I remember all those feelings. So as you're watching, as you're seeing the social media, let it fuel your belief and your decision to actually, fuel your belief to actually make a decision that no matter what, you are going to keep going. Because that's what it took. And I want to share with you a little story. I wanted to go so badly in 2019, so badly. Like I was just so fixated on Hawaii, and yet I was like barely maintaining Ruby or something at that point, maybe senior Ruby, I can't remember. And I remember at one point, I definitely had mindset funk, and Brittany knew this. And so she had got me on the phone only maybe 2 or 3 times in my whole journey. Did she get me on the phone with Fallon? And she got me on the phone with Fallon because it was clear that I was not going to make Hawaii that year. And this came out when we were talking to Fallon, and Fallon goes, well, what's the worst that happens if you don't make it this year? And I said, well, I guess I'll go the next year. And she said, you're right. So this doesn't have to be a big thing. If you keep going, if you keep moving, if you keep growing, you will get there. So friends, I really want to encourage you. I really, 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 really want you to use these upcoming days as you're watching all of us there. Let it fuel your belief that you will be there too. Let it make you better instead of disappointed and bitter. Let it fuel your desire to help more people get there. And all this is mindset work. It's mindset work. And remember, what I really wanted to focus on tonight, before we get into coaching, last week, Christina and Brittany it was such an incredibly rich time of them sharing their stories and encouraging us for where we were. And Brittany showed you a thought model, right? Well, if 20% of this business is skill and 80% of this business and mindset, don't you think we should be spending a lot more time on mindset? I mean, I feel like we need to be spending a lot more time on mindset, right? Skill set is one thing. Mindset is 80% of this business, because the most successful people in this business have the highest belief and the strongest mindset. And those with the strongest mindset and highest belief have the most successful businesses. So I want to go over the thought model with you, because I know for some of you, it was brand new last week. So I want to share my screen. Here it is. Okay. Share my screen. Okay. Can you guys see that? Whitney, I see you in my phone. You can see it. Okay, great. Okay. So this thought model, I want to go over this thought model. And we start with the circumstance, because here's the deal. As you think, so you are. Everything, your feelings, your actions, everything happens as a result of your thoughts. Okay. So, but they all start with the circumstance, right? And we're going to run through this example. Say that the circumstance is And I'm sure you all have this circumstance because you're on this call, right? You have a desire and a need to develop business builders, okay? But your unintentional thought, the thought that just naturally comes up, which, by the way, everybody has these unintentional thoughts that come in. Everybody does, okay? Everybody has unintentional negative thoughts. The key is successful people know what to do with them. Okay, so the unintentional thought comes in your head, who would want to follow me? I stink at duplication. That used to be me. Okay, and so that would create feelings of defeat, stress, insecurity, fear. So what actions would I take based on those feelings? I wasn't talking or posting regularly about the opportunity, and I really wasn't taking too many actions regarding duplication. Okay, and so my results were no duplication, no new business builders. Okay, so you have reinforced your negative thoughts, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy because you allowed this unintentional negative thought to occupy the real estate of your brain. But if you identify that thought and then say, no, I am choosing to replace that thought with a different thought, look at what happens. The circumstance is exactly the same. The desire and need to develop business builders, okay? But instead, I've decided that my thought is going to be, the thought that I'm going to master is, I'm mastering the skill of duplication and people want to join me. I am finding my people. Okay, everybody, look at that statement. I want you, when you read that thought, what feelings do you have? I want you to put it in the chat. What feelings do you have as you own and think that thought? I'm mastering the skill of duplication and want people to join me. I am finding my people. I feel capable, inspired, power, confident, empowered, hope, skilled, yes, excited. I love it. Okay, all of that. I was expectant, excited, eager to learn, full of possibilities, okay? So the actions, I became hyper-focused on learning the skill of duplication. I started posting and talking more about the opportunity and started helping new people share. So guess what happened? What were my results? I created new silvers and new business builders. I changed my circumstance by changing my thoughts. My new circumstance is that I'm developing new business builders. So instead of needing to, the result is change, and I am. And I'm going to drop this PDF. It's got a section for you to fill in yourself. I'm going to drop that in our leadership chat after this call. But do you see how it's so important to change the thought? And listen, there's no shame with having a negative, unintentional thought. We all have them, but you have the ability and the responsibility to change your thought. But it starts with self-awareness. It starts with becoming curious with what's actually going on in your brain. So here's a little piece of homework, and somebody write this in the chat log, please. I want you to take notice of what are the thoughts that you're thinking as you sit down to work. Are you thinking, oh, I am so excited to reach out to people. God has my people for me. I am offering life-changing solutions to people. People need what I have. Or are you thinking, oh crap, I gotta send messages. Oh, great. What am I gonna say? Oh, I'm not where I want to be. Another year, I'm not in Mexico. Why should I even send anything out? All of this starts with self-awareness. You've got to get curious about your thoughts, okay? So what thoughts are you thinking as you sit down to work? And then write it down. And if you need to take yourself through a thought model, take it through a thought model. Okay, a lot of you guys know that I did the Leading Ladies program with Jessica Heffley, who's #2 in the entire company. #2. Okay, #2. So when Jessica Heffley says something, I kind of take notice of like Brittany. When Brittany says something, I take notice. Okay. Jessica Heffley has a whole notebook of thought models that she takes herself through, and she does a thought model every single day. The woman has spent over $100,000 in personal growth on herself alone, and she still takes herself through a thought model every single day. So if she needs to do a thought model, I probably need to do 5 or 6 of them a day. But here's the key. Just start with one. And this is the most exciting thing. This applies to any area of your life too. I've had to do thought models about my parenting, about my marriage, about my organization. But specifically, I want you to be taking notice of your thoughts. And if you're getting stuck or you're having a hard time with this, talk to your sponsor and let her help you. Okay. I cannot think of, well, there's a lot of good habits to have, but this habit could absolutely change your life. And here's the deal about writing them down. And I find that if I don't write them down, it doesn't really anchor things for me. Some of you are self-aware and you notice when the negative thought comes in, but if you're like me, unless you write it down and then take the time to write down your intentional thought, it just stays up here swimming and it's never actually replaced. There is power in the written word. There's power in the written word, okay? So take the time, you are worth it. If 80% of this business is mindset, you should be spending more time on mindset. Take the time to do a thought model every single day. Get a notebook if you need to. Print these sheets off and take yourself through the mindset work, because as your belief grows, so will your confidence, your posture, and so will your results. Is this making sense? Is this making sense? Okay, great. Well, that's what I wanted to share with you tonight that was burning on my heart. So now I'm going to open it up for coaching or questions about what I just shared. You're welcome. Anybody? And I want you to know, I take myself through thought models every day about my business too. Okay. So there's no shame here. We all do it.
So I have
Hey, Michelle. Oh, go ahead, Leah.
No, go ahead, Jana.
Are you sure? Okay. I have a question. So it's more about someone that really wants to do the business, but really they need a lot of thought models. And they've been sharing on social media, but not getting any movement. I think they have a lot of mind trash from their past, and just things haven't developed in their life the way they've wanted, and a lot of struggles, but continues to share in some ways. She does need to grow, her network of people and connecting, but I think she's not doing that because of what she's thinking of herself. What would you suggest I share with her or say to her or move forward with her?
Well, that's a great question. And the number one resource I can point you to is I listened to this amazing podcast today. What to do if your workers aren't creating workers. It was like the .com amazing podcast. And I think that will really help you, because Brittany literally outlines what to do if your workers are not creating workers. And she goes through each step of the process. And so actually the whole time I was listening to it, I was thinking, I need to write this down in a flowchart form, because it was so brilliant to go through skill set and mindset and credibility issues. So I hope all of you are really plugging in to that podcast, because the whole reason Brittany is doing that is for all of us to have access to the wisdom that she's learned. And it really is she's handing us a leadership development program and answers to some of our biggest questions. So I would if you're in this situation, like Jana, I mean, I'm going back and, well, after Mexico, I'm going to go back and listen to it and take notes and outline each and every bit of that podcast. Okay. That specific episode. So, and the other thing that I would say is when I am coaching somebody, I have this sheet right in front of me. And this is probably why I want to outline the podcast that she made, because it helps keep me on track to see what I'm looking for. Okay. Is this a skill set issue? Is it a mindset issue? And this coaching flow chart that, again, Brittany created, helps keep me on track and look for the missing elements. And there's no shame in having tools to help you with your people. Okay. The whole reason that she's doing this is to give us tools and a system so we can move forward. Okay. So Janet, you think it is an influence issue. And she's got a lot of mind trash. Okay. So, but she's showing up to everything and she's working and posting.
The only thing she's not doing is, and she just really has a small group of people and she feels like she's reached out to them. I don't think she has, and we've talked about that. And she's also not like she needs to be, I feel like she needs to be, I could be wrong, working some in the cold market area. And I've sent her some information on that. But she keeps posting, but she's not, I don't think she's consistently reaching out either and following up, which of course is going to be an issue. And we've talked about it, but I think that's all that is in her mind too, with she just thinks, oh, they're not saying anything, so they're not going to join me. But it's strange that she keeps every day she puts something about plexus on her stories every single day. And I'm thinking, I can't find the connection when I talk to her. Just, I don't really know how to guide her at this point.
Okay, so a couple questions. If we're going to go by the flow chart, I have a couple questions. Number one, do you know her why?
Yeah, she does not want to be stuck in the situation she's in.
Okay.
She's in a place where she never has enough money. She's in retail, and she always has been. We met in college. We both worked at Belk at the time. And she's not married. She's the same age as me. And I have a couple of girls like that are not married in my age, that want to work the business and kind of feel stuck too. And I know that's hard. Like, it's really hard. And I hate that part for her, but I also know that she can still be very successful. I don't feel like we're old yet. And I think she sees the possibility, and so I think that's why she keeps sharing, because she has this hope, but she doesn't have any confidence, I think, in what she feels like she can do for some reason. I don't know. It's weird that she would keep sharing every day on her stories, but that there's things she's not doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let me ask you this. And I'm bringing this up because I want you guys to hear on two levels. I want you to hear what I'm saying to Jana, the coaching process, but I also want you to be taking note of what I'm doing so you see the process model too. Okay, so is she recruiting consistently? Question number.
No.
Okay,
No.
so on this flow chart, you go to the no. So is she doing consistent IPA?
No.
Okay, so you don't have to go anywhere else. And you think that it's an influence issue. Is she adding value on her social media?
No, not.
Okay.
I mean, she is talking about plexus, and she does have some. She puts quotes and things on her posts sometimes, and she's intelligent. She is, but she has very low confidence in herself.
Right. So her branding, all that to say, her brand, how would you define her branding?
Not very consistent, and you can tell there's just not You can tell she's just not, I mean, I can tell she's not confident in finding what she feels like she could do to add value to others.
Yeah. So, you can't, first, you have to add value to yourself, and then you give out of what you're adding to others. And the good news is that if she's willing, she can learn and she can grow to become, anybody can learn and grow to become a person of influence. And actually, Brittany has a podcast on this very thing, what to do if your people don't have influence. I would highly recommend you to listen to that because her language is perfection. Is she open to like if you said to her something like, if I saw something that may be holding your back, do I have permission to let you to share that?
Yeah, we've had that conversation, like a hard conversation, and she says yes. She's like, just tell me what to do. And I've told her. So I don't know at
Well,
this
what have you
point.
told her?
I said, you have to be consistently reaching out and following up. You have to figure out. And she does read books, like she watches Monday Night Lives. She'll message me and say, oh, I know that's what I need to do. She'll send me pictures of the book she's, reading. And I encourage her to, like, what did you learn? Post something about it, And I think she's afraid. I think she feels, I don't know what she feels. Maybe I should ask her that question. Why is she not doing it?
Well, that's the thing. So there's two things that come to my mind, and I love what Amy just put in the chat. Okay, number one, if they're not doing consistent IPA, you can't really go anywhere because they're not going to get results if they're not doing consistent IPA. So I would probably just ask her, like, hey, you've told me this. Is this still your goal? I would take it back to her goals, because you don't want it to be accusing or, because this is about her. It's not about you. It's about her. Is that you told me that this was your goal and this was your why? Is this still your goal? And then I was, okay, great. It's still your goal. So the only way for you to be getting tell me you're not getting joins. Are you consistently reaching out to people? Because, it's our business is very simple. Starting new conversations with people, following up with people, those are really, and then teaching others to do the same. Those are the things that are going to make you money. So are you reaching out to people consistently? Okay, and she's going to say no, or see what she says and say, okay, help me understand why not. What's going through your brain?
I think she thinks that she thinks things that aren't true. She thinks, oh, they'll never buy. Or I've thought about them. And I've told her, I'm like, you're just making that up, that you don't know until you tried and followed up. And they may not join you right now. And I've told her that. I'm like, they may not. I mean, it took me many years. And you have to, just follow up and love on them and encourage them, add value, things like that. And I don't know. I mean, she has a lot of mindset issues.
Well, here's the thing. I think you have to use some discernment, because you can't want it more for her than she wants it herself, Jana.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't drag her either. So you could run through a thought model with her and then see if I would give her some homework, like run through a thought model and say, okay, ask her what's holding back. Okay, so if you believe they're not going to buy from you, what's the thought behind that? They're not going to buy from you because they don't like me. You could take her through a thought model. And if she's willing to lay hold of that, if she's willing to do that, do you see what I'm saying? Like if she's willing to show up for herself, because you can't show up for her, but call out the quality, like take yourself through the checklist. Have you cast vision? Have you infused her with belief? Does she know what to do? Like, is this a skill set issue? Does she know what to say? Like, you're not reaching out to people. Ask her for some screenshots, tell her, can you send me some screenshots of conversations that you've had? and then take her through a thought model, and then you're going to have to use some discernment to know which way to go from there. Because if she's not willing to actually reach out to people, there's really not much that you can do.
Mhm.
But if you can identify the thought that's holding her back in terms of why they're not going to buy from me. I mean, literally, okay, so you think that you could just describe it like, let me ask you this. What would you have to believe to reach out consistently, Susie? Because when you think this, why would they buy from me? What feelings does that create in you? Well, I'm overwhelmed, I'm defeated, I don't want to do it. And so then what do? Nothing. I don't take action. And so then what happens? I'm not getting any joins. And see, I told you I suck. Okay, so what would you have to believe, Susie, in order to reach out consistently? What would you have to believe? Well, people, I don't know what she would say, love the products, or they're going to join me or whatever. So how does that make you feel, Susie?
She does love the products.
So you're going to have to take her through that thought model and just ask her some questions, because we don't really know if it's about her. Sarah Marie said, are they too expensive? Is she willing to get on the phone with you?
Oh yeah, like we talk a lot.
Okay.
I'm gonna say a lot. I've tried to be careful about how much I give
Good.
to her, because she has not, there's a lot of things she hasn't done that I feel like she could do without us getting on the phone all the time.
100%. So I think what I would do is run through a thought model. If it was me, I would run through a thought model with her, ask her what's holding her back from reaching out consistently, because that's point number one. And then run through a thought model with her, and then give her some homework. Okay, let's get you some wins. Reaching out to one new person a day for a week. And then let's get back together.
This is so good.
Just give her action steps. And then, because if she's not going to take action, that that you're dragging.
Mhm.
If she's hungry, she's going to figure out a way, and she's going to take the action, especially if you've already run through a thought model with her.
Mhm.
And then I would go back for you and go back and listen to Britt's podcast, outline it, and that will help you kind of with some more questions and tools as you're chatting with her.
Yeah, I listened to Brittany's podcast, but I have not written it down like I should. Like I'm in the car or taking a bath. Not a good idea.
Well, it's a great idea. I just always need to do it.
I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this while I'm doing this. I need to take notes. Then I just go back and listen to it. But I've actually started back over. And so listening and taking notes. So I'm finding that effective. Thank you, Brittany.
That's right. I'm just looking at the questions, because there's a lot of questions in the chat. Okay. So which thought model? Okay. Pamela asked, in a situation like this with all the thoughts, which thought model do you even start with? I basically let them guide it. If for her circumstances, she's not getting any joins. So she's trying to recruit and she's not recruiting, or she's not reaching out. So what's the thought behind reaching out? Tell me, when you sit down to send out a message, what's going through your brain? That's where I would start.
Do you think it's too forward to ask them, like, so if you ask, okay, are you reaching out to new people like we talked about? Because I have somebody like this and she's inconsistent. So would it be too forward to say, like, okay, so tell me more about that. Why aren't you reaching out to those? This girl said 5 new people. Like, why aren't you reaching out to those 5 new people each day? Is that too forward?
Is the 5 people a day a goal she has set for herself?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't, but I would probably preface it, Rachel, with, okay, so you told me that your goal was reaching out to 5 new people a day. Always make it about her and her goals. I mean, you're not the principal. You're not, she's not going to get an F on the report card. This is about her and her goals. So I remember you said that this was your goal. Tell me more about that. Is this still your goal? I don't think that's too forward at all because she's the one that said it. But again, it's the way you say it. It has to be about her, and it has to be coming from a place of love and trying. Remember, the goal is always to help them develop their potential. It's not even us developing their potential. It's us being the guide and the facilitator to them developing their own potential. So when you're going into it with that perspective and point of view, it's much easier to ask questions from a point of service and drawing out their best.
Yeah, so I've been reading High Performance Habits, and I've gotten through all the habits, and now I'm in the back of the book where he's talking about things that will pull you, like, say you're a high performer and then you're not, like, you go backwards. And he's saying the things that will cause that fall. And the very first thing he said was humility. And that was this morning. And I've always thought myself, saying this out loud, it makes me laugh because I've always thought I was a humble person. I feel like if you say that about yourself, you're probably not. So now that I say it out loud, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not. But like, I literally was just telling April this earlier. There have been times in the last year I'm like, why ain't she doing that? She said she would do it. I would do it. I would have done it. If April told me to do this, I would have done it. And he literally was saying things like that. And so I have to, like, this is something I'm working on, putting myself in this new person's shoes who said she would do 5 and wondering, okay, what might I be feeling if I were her right now? So that's why I was asking, is that too forward? Because I apparently need to work on humility.
Well, here's the deal. You don't know why she's not. You don't know if it was too lofty. I mean, I don't know the situation of the girl. You don't know if it was too lofty a goal. If she thought, I'm going to be a diamond next week. You don't know if, kids got sick and she couldn't do anything. I mean, is it a mindset issue? Is it a skill set issue? So just by saying, tell me more about that, you're opening the door for a conversation to explore what's really going on so that you can help her and then determine, is this a skill set? Is there a mindset? Is there a block? Do we need to set more realistic expectations? Because listen, there's been plenty of times where I'm like, I'm doing 10 business messages a day and 10 retention messages a day and 10 new reach outs a day. And then I'm like, I did maybe 5 of each, maybe. And now I feel like I suck worse than a lollipop, And so you just don't know. You don't know, like, is this somebody who can send out 3 really great messages and get 3 responses? And she's trying to keep up with, effervescent Evie, who's sending out 8,000 messages a day. I don't know who effervescent Evie is, but that was pretty cool. But do you see what I'm saying? Like, you have to ask more questions to get at what's going on. How did she set the goal? And then what does it need to be adjusted, or does her actions and mindset need to be adjusted? And honestly, that's why I love having this right in front of me. It's worn, it's tattered, it's torn, it's written all over, but it helps keep me on track as I talk to people as a reference. And there's no shame in that whatsoever. And like I said, I'm going to go back and outline this week's episode. Like, I plan on having a whole notebook of Brittany notes that I can just refer to and help. Because there is a lot of discernment here. There's a lot of trying to figure out what's really going on. Yeah, the Brit notebook. The Brit Files. And you know what, Rachel, my last thought on that is when you say, tell me more about that, what that's going to yield is trust, because you want her to be able to trust you and the connection. You know what I mean? Because you have her best interests at heart. Okay, Leah, did you have something?
Of course I do.
Well, good.
Well, I'm just going to put it out there. Michelle tells me a lot. So tell me more about that. So if jewels such as yourself and diamonds such as Jessica Heffley are taking themselves through thought models every day, I'm curious how you arrive at what do I need to take myself through today?
Well,
Like,
yeah, that's a great question. It's not like, oh, it's 10 o'clock. I need to do a thought model. It's usually I have a pit in my stomach, or I'm annoyed, or I have some feeling that's not peaceful and good that tips me off. Oh, I need to do a thought model because I'm annoyed, stressed out, frustrated. For me, because I'm such a feeler, I will notice it in my feelings first, and that tips me off that I need to do a thought model. So it's not as if, again, it's a time, it's very fluid. But when I notice the feelings.
because I'm over here like, okay, 10 a.m. time block, I'm going to be doing a thought model. And then I'm going to be like, oh, what do I need to be doing a thought model about? Because how much I love getting in my feelings, Michelle.
Exactly. Well, and sometimes it's not always somebody like, because me, I am such a feeler, like on the ENF, on the MBTI, I'm about as much, far on the feeling scale as you can get. So yeah, that's exactly, Pamela, so powerful when you're no longer in peace, or for me, that's how I can tell. For some of you that are more cerebral or thinkers, you'll notice that you will intuitively notice that your thoughts are going somewhere else. You know what I mean? So again, and sometimes there's seasons where I'll do it much more often, right? Because I am up to here with negative feelings and thoughts. Maybe last weekend. So does that help? Yeah.
It does. I think for me, it may not be the feeling, but when I sit down and I notice my mind's distracted,
Yes.
maybe a better indicator. So thank you for sharing all of that, and how you kind of arrive at what you need to think through.
Yes. You're welcome. But I cannot emphasize this enough. Writing it down is changing my life. It really does change my life, because it causes me, it's an anchor. Instead of it being like the wind that you cannot see, you just feel the effects. This is writing it down as like an anchor, and it becomes more concrete. And then you have it's tangible. And it's actually a scriptural principle. Write the vision down so that he who reads it may run. You can actually run with your new thought. So, oh, Kayleen, that was perfection. That's hilarious. Oh. Who else?
I was able to get her one of the indoor outdoor.
I think Amy had dropped a question in the chat.
Oh, Let's see. Okay, Amy Branch, how do you really know what your thought is? That's a great question. And again, this is, I like to write it down. A lot of this is getting still enough to become aware of what the thought is. And I know that when I'm constantly busy and running and doing things, I will not figure out what my thought is. I literally have to still myself, sit down or stop to, what's the word I'm looking for? Discern what my thought is. And for me, like I said, I will notice the feeling and then I have to ask myself, where is this coming from? I'm really annoyed, or I'm really overwhelmed, or I'm really stressed out. Where is this coming from? Oh, because I just had the hardest weekend of my life and I was supposed to get ahead and all this stuff. And now I'm completely overwhelmed. Okay. I understand why I'm a little anxious now. Okay. So the thought is, I'm completely behind. How is all this going to get done? That creates overwhelm, stress, anxiety, but I had to stop to figure that out. And if I didn't stop to figure that out, I would have just kept going with the anxiety. So for some of us, the battle is just in slowing down to recognize what's really going on. And Amy, I would dare say that you run at Mach speed, like a lot of us. So for some of us that are so prone to action, slowing down to just become aware of what they are and to discern instead of just running is half the battle. And so then when I can finally pinpoint what it is, because I've slowed down, then I can write it down and then I can say, well, wait a second, what's the truth? The truth is, God has my times. He knows what's going on. I can trust him. I'm living by my priorities. I may not have 2 fish and 5 loaves. I got half a fish right now, but he can still multiply it and feed multitudes. So slowing down is step number 1. Does that help, Amy? And I dare say, and I can say this because I've lived like this for so long, for people that are, when it's harder to identify what the thought is, a lot of times it's because we're running too fast. We don't take the time to notice and discern what our actual thoughts are. It can be easier to just stay in a state of activity, but honestly, that's not easier. It's just kind of self-deception. Because you're running, but you're on the gerbil wheel and you're really not progressing. You're just sweating. And what we want is growth and progression. That's what we want. We want to grow. And this is part of the slowing down to speed up is the thought work. Yeah, it can absolutely be uncomfortable for some people, because listen, to a lot of people that are into action and activity and constantly doing this and constantly recruiting and constantly doing all the things. I can say that because I was there. It's uncomfortable to slow down because we don't really want to face what's really there. But again, I kept hitting up against a brick wall, and I hit that brick wall a lot of times. And sometimes I've just had that was costing me a heck of a lot of money and a lot of frustration because I wasn't getting through the brick wall. I just kept hitting it. And here's something else that Jessica said to me that was so on one of our things. Growth is uncomfortable. And that gave me great comfort because I felt like for like 6 months, I felt like I was on the operating table naked and everybody could see everything. And it was awful. And it was just like this awful process. But you know what? when I realized this is growth, it was like, oh my gosh, thank you, Jesus. And now I wouldn't trade any of that for anything. And you know how we always say, do something uncomfortable every day? That means you're growing. Amy, does that answer your question? Yes. Okay. Okay, we have about 13 minutes left. Oh, Michelle, you said you became hyper-focused on developing business builders. Do you know what you did differently? Do you remember? Yes, I do. Okay, the question is, it was in the chat. Do you know what I did differently? Okay, the first thing I did differently was I hyper-focused on the skill of duplication. So I picked a few training videos and I would watch the same training video 10, 20, 30 times until I could basically, like, it was in me. And sometimes I'd be just listening to it while I was making dinner. And then, I'd forget that I was listening to it. And then I'd be able to pick up verbatim. I knew that I needed to get the belief and the training and the skill set in me. And so I did that with several trainings. And that was the very first step, because I knew that that's what I needed to do, is to focus on the skill set, because I felt ill-equipped. I wasn't confident in my own ability. So I hyper-focused on the skill. And now we've got some of the best trainings on developing business builders, in the whole company. So, and then I just started to do it. Like I can't remember if I made affirmations at that point. The skill set was the biggest thing, the hyper training there. And then just literally taking steps and doing what it said, talking about the opportunity with everybody, doing three-way calls with everybody, asking the magic question to everybody, and getting uncomfortable and doing the things. And now, Jana, knowing what I know now I have 2 sheets of affirmations that I read, declarations, so to speak. I like to call them declarations, that I speak over myself almost every day. I try to do it every day. And I also have it on a voice recording. So I try to listen to it and say it, because there's something very powerful when you hear your own voice speaking over yourself, because you will believe yourself more than you believe any other voice. And then there's power of life and death in the tongue. And I believe that there's something very significant about the power of the spoken word. And so now I am doing that, and I'm literally seeing those things come to pass. Like some of my declarations are, I'm a self-motivated, kingdom-minded leader, attracting self-motivated, kingdom-minded leaders. God brings me self-motivated leaders in my sleep. I'm a master of duplication. I mean, I just have a whole list. And I've trained my team to do the same, and they are. So I didn't necessarily do that back then, but I'm doing that now. Does that help, Jana? Is that helpful? Okay. Oh, and then signs. Like I have like business cards, like I've got index cards taped up. Like I have this in front of my desk. It says, focus on creating and developing new business builders. First action of the day, 5 business messages. From High Performance Habits, Rachel, what does it say? Release tension, set intention. So I've got these visuals all around me that help keep me focused as well on my goals and the key drivers that's going to move my business forward. Okay. Caitlin said, when you have a big goal, like earning the next leaders retreat, what keeps you from self-sabotaging from reaching that goal? Well, that is a great question. I have more questions. Tell me more, Caitlin.
My heart was pounding to just write that in the chat. So of course you're going to ask. I think what I have noticed about myself, like when there is a big thing to earn, I get excited and motivated and all of that. And then when it's time to put it to action, I feel like I start to disconnect a little bit, or I I mean, it's definitely thoughts that are going through my mind that I'm not, working through a thought model. So I feel like there was a lot of things that you just said that I could coach myself through. But it's definitely something that I'm realizing is affecting me when it comes to growing my business. But I also know that I'm not necessarily driven by numbers, but more so like, creating impact or helping people and that sort of thing. And what can be difficult is I'm not someone who can just write out all these messages in a certain amount of time and then feel like I'm making this huge amount of progress. So I do get a good response rate from, like, the other day I sent like 6 messages and I got about 4 people responding back to that. But anyway, it's just something that even if they're no's, it can definitely affect, I guess, just moving forward.
Okay, so it's great that you have a great response, right? Let me ask you a couple questions. Earning Leaders Retreat. First of all, how are you going to feel when you earn it?
I'll be proud of myself. Excited. I mean, I think those 2 feelings are what come to my mind. I'll probably be emotional.
Okay, now let's see. Do you know, have you broken down numbers to the point where you know what activity, like Monday night, Britt did this great strategy call, right? And she gave a couple different scenarios on how to earn Leaders Retreat. Did you take, what I would do is, like what I did for, I have a new Fast Start Silver. And what I did with her, because she's like, yeah, I want to earn the cruise and I'm going to get 4 joints this month and I want to have 2 of them go silver and, all this. So I've been said, okay, those are great goals. This is what that's going to take. This is what that looks like. So if you break down one of her scenarios, like say your goal is, okay, to get there, I'm going to have to get 4 joints this month, break down the numbers. So what does it take to get 4 joints? Okay, so for 4 joins, what I told this girl is it takes, on average, 1 out of 10 people are going to respond to you. So that means 40 new messages. Okay, so if I want 4 joins this month and 40 new messages over this week, then I'm going to reach out to 10 people for 4 days or, 8 people for 5 days. Do you see what I'm saying? Breaking it down to a micro level so you know the activity you need to take. And maybe for you, because you have a really good response rate, maybe it's not 10 messages. Like only you know what your response rate is. Maybe if you're getting, what is that? You're getting a fantastic response rate. Maybe you just need to send 25 new messages or 20 new messages. Just do the math. Break it down so that okay, I'm going to front load my new contacts and break it down to the level so it's not this big, huge elephant that you need to eat, but breaking it down into the steps you need to take will help you stay on track to not, and gives you wins each and every day. Because if you're measuring, the activity is a win. Meeting your daily activity goals is progress and a win. And if you're taking those actions, you're going to get the desired results. Do you see what I'm saying? So what I would do is what I'm encouraging everybody on my team to do is to break it down into, okay, if this is your great goal and this is what you need in this month, what does that mean on a weekly basis for your activity? And then everybody can decide how they want to work during the week. I have some people that batch all their new contacts within 2 or 3 days and then follow up the rest of the week. I have some people that do 2 new contacts a day and 3 new follow-ups a day. I don't care how if you do it on a daily or weekly basis. You're all adults. Figure out how you work the best. If you're in a zone and you like to stay in that zone, awesome, go for it. Figure out your rhythm, but the key is to know what your weekly goals are and then to schedule them in on the daily basis. Okay, so that way you've got a measurement to know I'm on track, because this is September is a sprint month because it's double credit month, right? So what I would do is take a look at your calendar and then figure out, these are going to be my retention. This is my retention hour. This is my recruiting hour. This is my duplication hour, and build those in so that every day you're taking steps to move towards your goal. Now, is consistency an issue for you sending out messages?
It has been in the past. I will be honest, but I do feel like I have been consistent, but not in the amount of messages that I need to be sending to move forward. So, what I've found is I've been working on helping other people move forward and breaking down an action plan for them. And I kind of have not done the same work for myself, which I know is not a good idea. So as far as like breaking it down, like you said, in bite-sized pieces, I will say that I think you saying like spending an hour on certain tasks will help me to focus better rather than like spending that hour on doing both new contacts and follow-ups, because I just can't get the amount of messages out like I want to within that hour. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think, I would get with, whoever you're working with in terms of mentoring to determine, your rhythms, your work rate, what's doable for you. And then block off, whether it's an hour, whether it's a half an hour, whether it's, one day is all new reach outs, the next day, whatever, but making sure that you're building in those activities to get you to drive the needle forward is key. And then I would really encourage you, because self-sabotage, you take yourself through a thought model. Like, what's really, like, if the thought is, well, why bother? I'm going to self-sabotage. I mean, I don't know what your thought is, but what would you have to believe in order to move forward with confidence, Caitlin?
That I can absolutely do what I say that I'm going to do.
Have you done that in the
Follow
past?
through.
Yeah, follow through. So here's what I would tell you to do. I want you to break down some numbers for yourself. If you can do it for your team, you can do it for yourself. And I understand how you feel, because I love people too. And I've got stuck in management mode in the past before, which means taking care of my team and not myself. And that's not really helping your team. The best thing you can do for your team is win that trip and be crazy successful, because that's what's going to show them how to do it. You're going to be able to say, this is how I did it. Come follow me. And it builds your credibility as a leader. That is and it's not selfish. It's actually leading the way. The very best thing that you can do for them is to be successful and to show them the way. So if you can do it for your team, break down some numbers for yourself, send it to your mentor. And then what I would encourage you to do is take your calendar and block off time when you're going to be doing these things, and get yourself some wins. Get some wins under your belt. And then as you've met all your goals at the end of the week, go celebrate. Go get an ice cream, take a walk, do something fun to celebrate the fact that you kept your word to yourself. Because I don't think we necessarily do that enough, and it's really important. Celebrate the actions and the fact that you kept your word to yourself. So you set the goals, you set the time, send it to your mentor for accountability reasons. And then as you meet it, go celebrate. Now we are out of time. I'm so sorry, but I have to finish packing because I'm getting up and being picked up at 5 a.m. to go to Riviera Maya. So we're going to end the call. Thank you, ladies, so much. I hope this was helpful. Drop your takeaways in the chat, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.